Hello and welcome to the RT Development Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Rossignol, and today I'm going to be talking about something I think is really important, and this is in-season training. Riding solo today, I'm going to kind of go over some three things that I think are really important. And first, I'm going to do just a overview of in-season training, and then I'm going to talk about three things that I think are really important because these three things are what when things are not taken care of will help or hurt a athlete throughout the season. And I don't mean injury, just you see these things start to happen over and over, and then the play of the athlete starts to go down a little bit. And so if we can handle these things early on and prioritize the right stuff, the athlete has the opportunity to avoid these things as the season goes on. But so with that, just in-season training, I think most people know it's very important. Like, you've spent all this time in the off season to then stop training. You're just going to be throwing away all the work that you put in leading up to this point. You built this strength, speed, explosiveness, power, whatever it is, all these things that you focus on, and they don't just stick around. Strength, and as long as you're training, doesn't mean you have to hit max strength, but like your max strength will hang around for anywhere from 25 to 30 days. Speed and power diminishes after 5 to 7 days. So if you're not getting consistently hitting those training qualities, then that's going to start to diminish throughout the season. And so with that, with your training, doesn't mean the intensity is always max, but make sure you're consistently doing some sort of heavy weight during the season. Now, in season, the big thing here is you can lift heavy weights. It's not, high reps, low weight, high reps. It actually should be the opposite: higher weight, low reps, because the reps and the sets is where the fatigue, the soreness, and that stuff comes from. Volume is what causes soreness. New exercises are what cause soreness. Lots of eccentric load is what's going to cause soreness. So for us, it's all about finding exercises that are lower or not as much eccentric load, lowering the volume, and then keeping the weight relatively heavier just for lower reps and less volume. Now, within all that, kind of got off there, but like, you spent all off season doing this work to put yourself in the best position to perform during the season. And you don't want to let that just go to waste. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't stick around. So make sure you're continuing to train those qualities so that you are able to maintain that level of performance that you've trained your body to be able to play at throughout the whole season. Not just being good in the first month of the season and then slowly start to decline. If you watch big leaguers and other high-level athletes, they get better as the season gets going. Sure, there's some fatigue towards the end, but the reason they continue to get better is they keep building and keep working throughout the season. And even everyday big leaguers are training at least 2 to 3 times a week. And if you're a guy who wants to play at the D1 level or any college level, for that matter, those guys are training 3 days a week, no matter what. They even are training on game day. It doesn't matter that you get into this routine, you get into these habits, these principles that you stick to. And even if it's not always the most optimal, if you stick to that, the long-term development, the long-term success is going to outweigh the maybe one day of a little bit of soreness or a little bit of fatigue. So making sure that you're prioritizing this so that your body is continuing to make progress. You're continuing to maintain, if not gain, strength. We have guys all the time that gain strength in season, and it doesn't mean we're chasing that but good training. Make sure you're hitting weights at a high enough clip that's kind of continuing to train those qualities, and guys will get stronger in season. Also, lowering the volume, their body's a little bit more recovered, gives them the opportunity to they'll see strength gains. So now to say it's gonna happen for everyone, no, but to say that it can't or it doesn't happen would be wrong too. Like guys get stronger in season and it's not just because we're chasing it. It just happens because of good training, consistency, and continuing to stick to a plan. Another big thing I think when you don't train in season, you go anywhere from let's say 7 8 months of consistent training, and then come the season you stop training for 3 to 4 months. That's if you're going 3 days a week, that's 12 sessions uh a month, and over a 4 month period, that's anywhere, let's say, or 3 to 4 month period, that's anywhere from 36 to 48 sessions that you have missed that you could have been getting better. And that 48 sessions, 36 to 48 sessions will add up over time. If you do that over, let's say, a 4 year high school career, I mean, that's over 160 sessions, close to 200 sessions that you've missed because you didn't continue to train in season. And by your if you're a high schooler or even college guy, by your senior season, if that's around 200 sessions you've missed, it's going to add up, and that's the performance isn't going to be where it could have been if you continue to train and just train the right way. Especially if you're a high school guy playing 2, maybe 3 games a week, if you plan accordingly and appropriately, you should be able to set yourself up to still train, but also not be overly fatigued. Now, I think one of the biggest things where guys get in trouble for not training in season is their body adapting to the gains that they made in the off season and then trying to hang on to it at the end of the season. So you've gained all this strength, you're moving better, moving faster for velocity. Let's say the velocity climbed up, right? Your arm's stronger, but now you're not taking care and doing the things that helped you get there, and your body's starting to get fatigued throughout the season. You start to lose strength. Those muscles that were now strong and protected are no longer being taken care of. And guys, that's when guys start to fall off at the end of the season. The goal is to be your best at the end of the season, not the beginning of the season. So if you're not planning accordingly and taking the right steps to help you prepare and to be your best at the end of the season, then that's not setting yourself up for success or your team up for success. So don't let yourself fall off because it's in season, because you're tired, because you don't have time. You make time. And I think that's one thing that for our guys, we talk to them a lot about. It's like, it's not, the time commitment that you have now is definitely shorter. And you have your baseball practice games is number one, but just finding that time, making time, make it a priority so that you continue to get your training in, so you can continue to see the rewards of the work that you put in the off season and continue to put in through the in-season training. And the last piece on that before I get into a couple things here is when you're training, it doesn't have to be for 45 or for an hour, 2 hours. In season training, 30 to 45 minutes is perfect. Get in, get the work done, get out. Hit the top sets that you need to hit, get your good movement work in, some accessory, and go. But it's not like in season where we're getting work of 5x5 or stuff like that where there's a lot of volume and a lot of high working sets. The working sets should be lower, right? And you're just getting to that top 1 or 2 sets on your top movement, then do your accessories and get out, right? You don't need a ton of lack of a better word, fluff in season. You don't need a lot of fillers in season. Just do what you need to do and then get on and get back to your recovery. So that's kind of a general overview of training. And now I have 3 things that I really want to touch on that will help you continue. One, to see progress in season. At very worst, maintain, if not continue to see progress. And so I talked on this a little bit, but strength training, making sure you're strength training the right way. Okay. A lot of eccentric loading stuff is going to keep you sore. It's going to keep you fatigued. It's going to keep you from being able to uh, do the things that you're wanting to do. So, in terms of let's say our compound lifts, our squats, maybe more to like pins, non-eccentric stuff, concentric only stuff, lifting from the pins, step ups, landmine presses, rows, things that are not very eccentric loading. I like a lot of step ups, even like sled walks with a heavy sled. All right, you're not really contracting the on the eccentric part of stuff like that, but you're still able to build strength. Now, another piece is, and I've talked about this a little bit earlier too, but the volume. The volume's got to be cut down. So if we're having uh, a deadlift day, work up to 1 to 2 heavier sets, whatever that heavy number is for that day, but get to that high intensity, build that intensity up, and then start um to get to the next thing. All right, we're not doing 5 sets of 5, 6 reps in season. It's just not going to be very beneficial. It's going to keep you sore. It's going to keep not let you do what your number one goal is the baseball side. Go perform on the field. Not on the upper body side, maybe not as much bench press if you're a guy who bench presses. Some more dumbbells, things like that are going to be more beneficial. Landmine presses and push-ups, those type of things are going to be a little more just overall friendly, not as much stress on the joints, and not in terms of like we're worried about the exercise being bad, because they're not. It's more just the body will just feel better. It's not as much load on the eccentric portion. And then the last thing is, for me when I'm programming, a lot of the accessory stuff we're doing 2, 3, maybe if it's lighter, 2, but mostly 2 sets of work, and maybe even cutting out a block. If in the off season we have 4 blocks, a lot of our guys who are playing a lot, playing every day, two-way guys, things like that, they're getting usually 3 blocks. Like get in, get out, get the work done, hit the things that you need to hit, and a lot of that fluff work. And when I say fluff, like extra ab work or like extra mobility stuff, that obviously those things are important, but it's more about just get the things you need to get done, get out, and don't waste. You don't need to be spending an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym during the in season. Like you're going to have diminishing returns. It's about doing what you need to do so you can get back and get to the recovery side. And with that, I think because guys don't prioritize this or don't train the intensity enough in season, they also have a lot of like ebbs and flows to velocity, to power, and things like that. It's one thing you see, especially in high school guys, is there's a lot of dips in velocity, and it's because they're not taking care of these 3 things that we're going to touch on today. But number one being strength training. If you have a guy who is really strong, did all this stuff to gain velo, and then he just kind of neglects that, you're going to see a dip in velo, especially when not everything's perfect condition, especially early in the season when it's a little bit colder, and things like that. So make sure you're prioritizing that strength training, maintain that strength and power that you prioritized in the off season to get you to where you're at. But then from there, strength training the right way, right? For us, making sure we're still hitting speed and power work. It doesn't have to be a ton of volume, but like I said, you're going to lose power in 5 to 7 days. So make sure you're still doing your sprint work. If you're a hitter, let's say, hopefully this doesn't happen to you, but let's say you have a 0 for 6 week or 0 for 7 week, and you don't have the ability to get many sprints in down the line or first to second or anything like that. Now you're not getting those sprints in. So maybe making sure 1 day a week that you're actually having sprints in, whether it be before practice, before training, something where you have it doesn't have to be a ton of volume. 4, 5 good hard sprints, where you're just training that intensity and that modality so that you maintain that work that you put in is going to be really important, and it's going to help with your power production and explosiveness when it comes to hitting or fielding or pitching. And so a lot of times guys one thing guys do is they continue to do the strength portion, um, but they then will neglect the power and speed, and the power and speed is first to go. So make sure we're continuing to do speed work and also jumping work. And so a lot of still doing box jumps, skater hops, things like that, that we're training those modalities or those qualities. And so it's 2, maybe 3 sets on the jumps, maybe 1 to 2 exercises on that. But, if you're getting on the jumps somewhere between 6 to 8 sets in a week, I think that's really good. And it doesn't have to be a ton of reps. Like if you're getting 3 lifts in, you get 8 reps or 8 sets of 2, maybe 3, but keeping the overall volume low and just training that high intent of that of that training quality. And the last thing on the training thing when it comes to um, with the speed and power work is for us specifically, but I think it's really important. When you're pitching, you're hitting, you're throwing, you're rotating a ton. You're rotating every day and hundreds of reps to do a lot of med ball work in season. I think kind of just is beating um, a bad pattern because you're fatigued. You're getting a ton of that already, so you're implementing this bad pattern that's not going to help kind of make you take a step forward. It's just going to be diminishing returns and just fatiguing yourself to fatigue yourself. So one thing we'll still do when it comes to med ball stuff, throw on the opposite side. So if you're a right-handed hitter, throw med balls on the left side. This helps just train try to create some symmetry. Now for our baseball players, we don't ever want them perfectly symmetrical. Part of being a high level thrower hitter is having those asymmetries. And so don't just train. If you're throwing let's say you're taking 100 swings, you don't need 100 rotational med balls on the opposite side. It's just a couple. Just train that a little bit, keep that movement quality. And then the other thing would be bilateral throws, or so like ball slams, throws for height, just some things that train power and explosiveness, but you're not training the rotation piece. So that's a little bit into our training. One other thing would just be arm cares. Make sure you're maintaining that arm care, the arm health, the strength through the rotator cuff, the scap, things like that. Those things are things that get lost throughout the season. And when I talk about arm care, it's not just strength. Strength is one thing, but it's also movement quality. You're going to lose internal rotation as you throw. You're going to gain external rotation as you throw. And so the more you throw, you gain external rotation in the shoulder and you lose internal shoulder. Just make sure you're still teaching good movement through the shoulder, getting good posterior tilt of the rotator cuff, good upward rotation of the scap and the lower trap so that the arm is moving properly as you lose those movements. And it happens slowly, but over a season, you definitely will happen. And so just making sure you're continuing to train movement quality so you're just ingraining good movements into the brain and allowing that shoulder just to keep getting good movement through it. And then forearm health, making sure we're doing stuff that one trains movement through the forearm, pronation, supination, but also strength through the flexor and just the whole forearm area in general. It's getting beat up throughout a season, so it's just important to make sure that we're continuing to do things to help it, to protect it, and keep it strong and healthy. So that's the training side. I think it's just I can't emphasize it enough. Make sure you continue to train in season. Don't think, high reps, low weight. It's actually the opposite. That's something that's always talked about. I was like, in season, I just need to go lift high rep or low weight, high reps. And that's actually not it. One, you're going to lose strength. And two, just creating volume just to create volume. Okay. So get in, get out, maintain strength, and train things that are going to avoid being sore. And that's the eccentric loading. The next thing is I think one of the biggest pieces, and especially when it comes to the ebbs and flows of a season with velocity, power, just overall performance, is weight. It's very common for guys to lose weight during a season. They, especially at the high school level where they don't have access to a ton of food all the time, and so you will see guys lose 10 to 15 pounds during the season. And so making sure, guys, you are preparing ahead of time. So if you know you're going to eat breakfast and then you're going to eat lunch, and then let's say you're eating lunch at 12 o'clock and then not eating till 7, 8 o'clock again because of practice and whatever else you're doing. And we see guys come here straight after practice that haven't eaten and they ate at 12 o'clock and then they don't get to eat till 8 o'clock. That's 8 hours without eating. And that's not a recipe for trying to maintain or gain weight. So a couple things to help with the weight or keeping the weight on is, one, plan ahead, right? If, let's say, you have your breakfast, your lunch, making sure you're not going from lunch to dinner without something in between, especially if you have practice and things like that. So you got to have something before you go into practice. And then if you're going to training after that, have some sort of, even if it's just something small like a bar, a shake, piece of fruit, and some jerky, things like that you're at least getting some calories in you so that you're not letting yourself continue to be eating at a very low amount of calories in general. So plan ahead, have a plan, know how or when you're going to eat each day. And if you do that, you're going to not allow yourself to let your weight dip, because when that weight starts to drop, so will velocity. We see it every year. Guys, their velocity is up, down, and then they can't figure out, but they've now not been losing weight for week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it catches up to them. And so get ahead of it now before that velocity drop happens, that power at the plate starts to happen, and you just start to feel sluggish overall. I think, and a lot of times guys don't even realize how important this is until they actually start to prioritize it, right? And this is more even just a pure performance thing rather than a like weight drop thing. So guys will start, let's say they eat breakfast, have a snack in between lunch, breakfast and lunch. Then they have some sort of a little bit of a meal snack before practice. And then they have that something before the train, then have dinner, and then some sort of, let's say, a protein shake or something before they go to bed. And if you start eating all those calories each day, one, you're going to be eating to perform versus just eating to just eat. And two, you're going to continue to gain or maintain weight, which is also going to help you continue to help with performance. And it's going to allow you to feel a lot more energy, a lot more just like clarity, and your body's going to feel a lot better. And you're losing weight, plus you're putting a ton of stress on your joints from just the repetitiveness of baseball in general or just the sport. Your body's getting beat up. And so your body getting beat up plus losing weight is not a good recipe for continued performance and success. And at the end of the day, that's the number one thing, is to help you perform on the field. And if you're not taking care of your body, regardless of how much training you're doing, how much work you're doing, if you're not taking care of your body to perform, then you're not going to see the real results that you're looking for. And often you'll see diminishing results as the season goes on. So to avoid that loss in velo, that loss in power, just the overall just loss in energy, prioritize your eating. Prioritize your nutrition. Eat, make sure you're getting good calories and you plan your day out in advance and have a kind of almost a schedule. Know every time you're going to eat, the times every day, and try to keep it as consistent as possible. I mean, your school schedule is not going to change Monday through Friday, so keep that schedule and that routine. And the more routine based you are with it, the easier it's going to be, and you won't be like, oh, I wasn't able to eat today. And on top of that, and something I should have touched on in the beginning, but eating like a bagel for breakfast isn't cutting it. A bagel, and then you have another little snack for lunch, and then dinner's the first real big meal you're getting. Then that's what we hear from a lot of guys is I had a bagel for breakfast, I had a little bit of something before practice, and then the first real big meal is dinner. That's you're not eating to perform at a high level. You're not eating to help yourself out. And so no wonder you feel sluggish, you feel tired, and your body's feeling beat up because you're not taking care of your body to withstand all of the stress that is being put on it. And regardless of what it feels like playing, training, it's all stress on the body, and the nutrition is what's going to help you allow you to protect from that stress that you're putting on and creating. So make sure nutrition and weight, keeping your weight up is another big thing in season, right? So we've talked about strength training in season. We talked about weight and / nutrition in season. And the last thing is recovery. And there's 3 parts to this. There's one, just overall recovery. In season, you don't need to do stuff just to do stuff. Make sure you know, especially for our pitchers, they should have a plan each week. What days they're high days, what days they're low days, what days they're going to be able to get some recovery in, so they're not, just continuing to beat the body up. But if we're planning those recovery days, we're allowing our body to recover, especially in between outings. You're going to give yourself a chance to rebound every week and get your body to be prepared for your scheduled start. So with recovery, let's talk about first sleep. Making sure you're getting a good amount of sleep every week. Try to have a consistent bedtime. I know school, things like that can make it a little bit harder, but if you have someone of a general time you go to sleep and a time you wake up every day with some consistency, hopefully 8+ hours, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. But playing video games till 12:30, then having to wake up early for school, and then not eating a good breakfast on top of that, you're really not setting yourself up to go perform and to put your body in a spot that it's going to be able to feel refreshed, good, and be in a position to perform at a high level. So make sure we're getting good sleep. Good quality sleep is also very important. And I know with that means putting your phone down an hour before you go to bed. Turn off the video games an hour before you go to bed. Sleep in it. Try to create a dark room. Blackout curtains can help with that. But those little things help with sleep, overall sleep quality, which is going to have a big effect on your performance. The next part of the recovery is your just overall week. And I kind of touched on this a little bit, but for a starter, if you know your days of a bullpen, your days of your start day, maybe because you high school guys at least have a 7-day schedule. You're going to know which days are going to be your high days, your low days. But the big thing here is what we hear guys all the time is, oh, I feel good, so I'm going to push it on that recovery day. Well, it doesn't matter if you feel good. You need those recovery days, need to be those recovery days so your body can be ready for the days that it needs to be ready for. So the bullpen day is the day, get after it a little bit. That's the day you should push on the throwing side, you should push in the weight room. Then the game day, usually the day, obviously, you're going to get after it on the mound, but then that's the day you should also be lifting heavy. Now, if you're a high schooler and you might not be able to get into a gym after, that's fine. If that is the case, then I like the next day to go in there and get a heavy lift, then follow that up with a recovery day. And then depending if you're a guy who bullpens on your third day or your fourth day, that will be the next high day. So it's kind of part of that is figuring out which day you like the best. But I think having a plan and consistently sticking to it is very important so that you can get that recovery when needed and prioritize it the way it should be so that you can perform to the level that you want to perform at. But one of the biggest things is you're in season is you're already getting fatigued daily. And so if you're not doing the right things to help with your recovery, then you're not going to be helping yourself. And the last thing on that, on the training side, if you like foam rolling, if you like any of those other modalities, they're not perfect. They're not going to quote unquote fix anything. But if those things help you recover, feel good, make sure you're prioritizing them when you need to. If you're a guy who needs who likes manual therapy work, so massage, things like that, make sure you're getting that. I like to have guys do that usually on their bullpen day, if possible. And not everything's perfect, but that if they can do it on that, then it also can give them a day or two to recover from that, because that can cause some soreness and stuff like that from the work being done. But make sure you're prioritizing your any of those things, hot tub, any of those things that are going to help you feel good. Because at the end of the day, you want to feel good so that you can perform at your best. So those are the three things that you really need to focus on in season. Making sure in season, number one is just making sure in season training is a priority. You have to make time for it. It's not, I don't have time. It's, I have to make time for it. That's number one. Two, train. Now, don't go crazy, but train intensity over volume, right? 1 to 2 heavier working sets is way more than a lot of volume and a lot of reps. Okay. So keep the reps down, keep the sets down, and train that quality, that strength quality, and then get out. Do some accessory work. All right. Same thing, speed and power. Make sure you're touching those qualities at least once a week, once, maybe twice a week. So you're maintaining that. Remember, 5 to 7 days, you start to lose that. So it's not a ton of volume, but just make sure you're touching that quality 1 to 2 times a week. Weight/nutrition. Make sure you're prioritizing your nutrition so you're maintaining your weight, if not keep gaining weight. Like if you're a guy who needs to continue gaining weight, you need to really prioritize each meal. Make sure you have it scheduled so you know when to eat, how much to eat, and you're not letting yourself have these big windows of time without eating. Unfortunately, it's too often, too common for guys to go 8-9 hours without eating in between practice, training, school, and all that. So prioritize it so you don't get caught in that window of that long window of not eating. And then lastly, sleep and whatever other recovery modalities that you like. Make sure you're especially sleep. Sleep, as they've said, sleep is the number one natural steroid. Your body, lack of sleep, your body runs a lot slower. You lose power, you lose strength. So making sure that you're prioritizing your sleep so that your recovery is higher, you're able to perform at the level that you want to perform at. And all of this is to help you make sure you're getting the results that you want to get. So maintaining that velocity, continue to improve power and just movement quality at the plate. And when you do these things, you do it consistently, you're going to give yourself the best chance for success, for not only in the beginning of the season, but throughout the whole long season, because the season is long. And just because you feel great now, as we're talking here early March, you want to maintain that through May and longer. Okay. So I hope that helps. Hopes it gives you some strategies to help to implement throughout the season. whatever you do, do not neglect the in-season training. Keep making it a priority. Prioritize these 3 things, and you're going to set yourself up for success. If you have any questions, you need any help with this, make sure to reach out. You can always reach us at rossistraining.com or DM us on Instagram at rossistraining. But till the next one, hope this helps. Thank you for listening. Talk soon. Bye.